Chris, two different artists living and working a century apart from each other. Why have you brought them together here?
Well, when I came here, Paula Rego was one of the artists I really wanted to work with. In fact, I saw her a few days before I left the Tate and came to Bath. But we weren't able to work with her straight away because she had a big retrospective at Tate Britain. So when she died a couple of years ago, I approached her family and I was really touched at how enthusiastic they were about the idea of showing her here. And our curator, Montse Pismarkos, had this idea of bringing her together with Goya because Paula was really fascinated by art history, but Goya was the artist she most admired because I think they share a particular sort of sardonic take on the darker sides of human psychology and human behaviour. So they're very dark images. And what the show does is bring together her nursery rhymes, which are quite creepy, dark interpretations of what actually are quite underlyingly dark bits of literature, and Goya's Follies, which are the less well-known set of prints, but actually include some really iconic images. And it's funny because Goya seems so modern, and yet you realise he's making those prints at exactly the same time as William Holburne was on the Grand Tour in France and Italy. So there is a direct relevance between that juxtaposition and the Holburne and its collection. And I think you can see that with Pride behind me, where I didn't realise quite how brilliantly it would chime in this picture gallery where the wig echoes the wigs in the paintings. There's a wonderful sort of parody. We have Lord Wollaston with his spaniel on one side of the room, and then this figure with her rat and piglet, sort of almost like a sort of satire on the tradition of 18th century portraiture, which you realise when you see her in here, the theme of this room is pride.
You, I think, have opened up the Holburne in recent years to new audiences by having much more of a variety of temporary exhibitions. I take it this is part of your vision for the future of this place.
Yeah, we've sort of, the vision for the Holburne is to make it open for everyone and to make it relevant and sustainable, lively and accessible, and bringing great art of all periods and all parts of the world to Bath is really what we set out to do. So, Goya is one of the towering figures of 18th and 19th century painting. Paula Rego is increasingly seen as one of the great figures of late 20th century art. So, it's wonderful to be able to bring both of them together, and following a season of Henry Moore and Mr. Doodle, who are very different artists, and yet, and speaking to very different audiences. And as you say, it's all about trying to tell as many people as possible that the Holburne is a place where they're welcome, and encouraging all kinds of different parts of society to come and engage with what we do. And what we do, I think, is important and it's relevant to our times.
You, of course, are at this is my opinion, the wrong end of Great Pulteney Street. And you have a wonderful neon attached to the portico at the moment, which I saw is staying until January. So that's the Christmas illumination as well. A great way of attracting people because you stand by the Laura Place fountain, and if you don't know, you're saying, what's that?
Exactly. I mean, one of the great challenges of the Holburne physically is how you tell all those people who cross Pulteney Bridge what's down at the end of Great Pulteney Street. The banners are just not big enough to be able to see what they say. So doing something exciting on the facade, we had Lubena Himid's fabric piece earlier this year, but using lights, and we've had Christmas lights in recent years for exactly that reason. But this year we've got a wonderful artist, Chila, Singh Burman, who's a Punjabi Scouser, with these wonderful, joyous, celebratory big trees glowing in the dark. And I hope it will, again, let people know, A, that we're here, and B, that we're open and welcoming and a bit fun.
I can't leave with asking you how work is going in the basement. You've got local builders, Emery's, in to help create your new gallery. I know they're good builders, but you wouldn't know they're here.
Well, we're starting it's a kind of incremental process. As you know, we're creating a new gallery in the basement of the extension to house the most amazing collection of Renaissance silver, paintings, bronzes and ceramics. To do that, we need to clear out the stalls that are there and we're moving the art in those stores, some of it to a new off-site facility that we've been provided with, and some to stores in the old 18th century basement of the original building, which until now hasn't really been fit for purpose. It was damp. So what we've been doing in the last few weeks is creating spaces in there which can be fully air conditioned. They've been tanked so they're waterproof. We're plugging the holes where the rain gets in. That phase is almost finished. And at the end of October, we'll move out of those spaces and we'll occupy those with some of the collection. And the builders, Emery's, will move into the rest of the basement. So the basement will then be shut for a few months. I'm afraid we'll have very posh temporary loos outside and a temporary kitchen while they refashion the whole basement to open up a much larger lobby to create the appropriate approach to what's going to be, I think, one of the most beautiful galleries in Britain.
Adding another jewel to your crown.
Well, it's wonderful that this little museum in Bath will have one of the great Renaissance collections in the country.
Chris, thank you.